community's acclaim spreads. Word of our community's acclaim spreads. Word of our community's acclaim spreads. A new follower. community's acclaim spreads. A new follower.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another fantastic Tuesday here on the Exploding Dice channel. My name is Askren, and you are hanging out with us on Fuzzy Dice, the Dungeon Master Show. Brought to you, of course, every Tuesday, where it's your Dungeon Master Show for everything D&D and all that good stuff. And I have music playing in my ear, so I can't really think right now. Sorry, let me just turn that down. Before we get started, I want to say hello to my fantastic guest. He is sitting, always get it wrong, on this side of me, and now now he's off screen, but he's sitting on this side of me, and his name is Ruty. What's going on, my friend? I am unmuting you on OBS. That's what's going. I always so many sliders. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Let's see. I'll scoot here. How am I doing now?
Other way.
This way?
There you perfect. Right there.
All
awesome. Right. Yeah, we have a great show lined up for you guys. We're gonna get into it in just a second. But before we dive into all of the festivities and all that good stuff, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Let me just hit that retweet. If y'all haven't already, Dice Thulu has the retweet link, so go ahead and hit that. Tell all your friends that you're hanging out with us here, and it's gonna be awesome. We have some announcements, some real quick announcements we're going to get into, and then we're just going to dive into the good stuff. Real quick, if you guys have not heard already, been talking about it on the last two shows over the week, or the last three shows over the weekend, but there is not going to be any shows next weekend. So there's my home game, obviously, but there's no Rising Moon on Saturday. There is no Jade Region on Sunday, and no Map Monday, all because this weekend I'm heading out to PAX East. I'm going to be there with myself and Not So Speedruns and Unmade Gaming and Trey and ZTV and a million other streamers, and it's going to be amazing. We're going to try and bring you something from PAX, so maybe it'll be maybe we'll all get together to play D&D, maybe we'll do something crazy, I don't know, but the actual games won't be happening. But we will be back, obviously, the following week with fantastic follow-ups to all the really cool cliffhangers that we left you guys on. So, obviously, check Twitter for all of that good stuff. And the only other announcement that I want to get through is, if you haven't already, Dice Thulu has the link. It's the exclamation point giveaway. That is going to take you to our giveaway for March. As you guys know, every month we give away some really cool stuff. And for March, we have put together a really cool DM's kit for you guys. It's got your 5th edition DM Dungeon Master's Guide. It's got your Curse of Strahd in there. It's got a DM screen. It's got some dice, and it's got some other goodies too. Everything you need to get started as a DM, or gift to your DM if they're really, really good. Or I don't know, whatever else you might think of doing it. It's your stuff if you win. So all you got to do is hit that link. It's if you're already following the Twitch channel and following the Twitter account, then you're already entered. So go claim it. And that's really it. That's all I've got to announce at the beginning of this show. So I am going to turn it over, or we're gonna turn things over, and we're gonna talk a little bit. Obviously, I've got Ruty here from the show Maze Arcana, and he's gonna be talking all kinds of cool stuff with me. But before we get into that, I want to tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where do you come from, and what kind of stuff do you get up to?
Oh, geez. I come from the South. I'm one of those kids who was born and raised down there in the other LA. We call it Lower Alabama, which is just a fancy name for that Florida, Alabama, Georgia kind of line break.
That is a new one. I've never heard that before.
Is it the Lower LA? LA? Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up there and joined the military at a pretty young age. Did a nice long tour of duty with that. Deployed. Got to go to Florida State for quite a long time. And then I made my way out here doing a lot of the production type stuff. I act, I do voiceover, I write. I'm a member of multiple guilds here, and I guess that's something that's fairly important to me because I try and make sure that all of our shows also have that union affiliation, which is clearly very rare in our our little subsection community.
I mean, that's actually that's really interesting. I know specifically because I know you guys, obviously being out in LA, you guys sort of interact with you know, a lot of your guests and stuff have been, you know, actor types, people, you know, people who kind of do performance for a living. So it's really interesting that you kind of, the way you guys set up your show and stuff, almost like as if it were a production, you know, rather than just a D&D game.
Oh, it is. It is a full out production. It takes a lot of time commitment. It's kind of a little bit more, I think, than what a lot of people get into, and definitely more than a lot of people expect. We spend quite a bit of time troubleshooting. We have an actual DP for lighting. Our cameras are really nice. We're lucky to have those, and a lot of that has to do with our awesome fans and also our awesome, you know, like partners that we team up with to make this thing happen. Because everybody's just doing it out of love. We don't actually make any money.
Yeah. Oh God, do we all know that? No, that's I mean, that's really cool because I think the reason it's really cool to me is because for a while now I've had a lot of guests on my show from, you know, people who are out in the LA area, and one of the things I like to talk about with them is sort of this whole I guess this whole new movement of like treating gaming as a fully produced entertainment.
Yeah, it should be, I think, in a way. If you're going to do it to where you have a group of people that are coming to sit down, and you're going to make it something that people are going to be enthusiastic about watching and automatically know that the quality is good. I mean, like, you went to the effort of putting together a boom mic and you got a split screen and all these other things that you're trying to make sure that your quality sounds good and also that you have good video quality. Like, these are important things to people.
Yeah.
And if you kind of care about going through the effort of just broadcasting, you might as well try and step it up and do it a little bit, you know, higher than the basement.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually, I mean, obviously I'm an artist by trade, and the I think one of the things, especially when it happened, and I want to talk to you about a little bit about this, see if it kind of reflects in the way you DM, because it definitely does for me. I know I'm a really hardcore perfectionist, always only when it comes to myself. Like, if I can spend more time on something, or it's like if I'm doing it already, might as well do it 110%, you know, and so that definitely comes through, or at least I try and do that, you know, with everything on the stream. Like, I'm assuming that's kind of where you come from too.
Well, Satine and I are both rather, I guess perfectionist is kind of the best word for it, but we're both very attentive to the requirements of the scene, but also to the look and the feel of it. And we want people to see that it's something that people play, you know, people that they would kind of look up to from acting, like their favorite people that are writers or whomever is available. Like, what type of art do you do specifically?
I went to college for illustration and graphic design.
Oh, awesome. So you and Satine kind of share that as a little bit of a way, and I can tell by looking at the way that you put together your stream that you do care exactly about, you know, where different angles are going to be, and you know, using the aspect ratios appropriately. And that's something that she and I are very particular about. She's a little more on the visual side, and I'm a little bit more on the writing side. But, you know, we're both very excited, I guess, and sort of intuitive on both of the other sides. Like, Satine's written multiple comic books, and then also her book, The Heroine's Journey, which, you know, basically details the woman's hierarchy of needs versus, you know, the one we're used to seeing so frequently for men. But we're definitely very specific, and we have discussions almost daily about what we can do to make the thing look a little bit, you know, better or clearer. How do we make people feel a certain way when they're there? Definitely things that most streamers may not talk about on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like, it's definitely it's definitely a level of commitment thing. I know some people that, you know, but it's a lot of work to like sit down and have production meetings about your game, and it's like, hey, like on this game, you know, on this we want to try and play up this, or we want to try and, you know, give this to the players. But again, it's something that I think a lot of people are kind of getting into now. For example, like when I first started playing, I was playing with just gamers. I was playing with people who wanted to play D&D. But ever since I started streaming, a lot of the people that I play with now are, they're people who maybe not professionals, from out in LA, working in the business, but they're people who aspire to be entertainers. And that's,
Right.
that I think that is radically changing gaming in general, but also obviously the sort of the shared experience of broadcasting your game, which is a new and growing thing, and it's really, I think there's a lot of dynamics in there that I think are really cool.
Well, we see that there's sort of a cyclical environment that happens regularly every time we swap to a new medium, and we're really just kind of coming back around to a theater aspect
Hmm.
of what it was. Even when we hit TV, there was a standard of time there where it was almost all live. So coming back around to the internet, we actually started out in the reverse of that because we had just come back. So it was just a pendulum swing back, and we don't really go through the effort of scripting out or telling the players where things
Yeah.
are. I try and make it very open for them, and because I want them to be surprised, just like I want the audience to be surprised about things. But there's something to be said for being mindful of how you're performing.
Oh yeah.
That most DMs, sitting at a game store or sitting at home in their basement, don't have to worry about. For instance, I like to get up and move around and be very fluid in my games. And I think you can even see that too when Mercer DMs a couple of times. That you
Oh
see
yeah.
some clips on YouTube from when he was doing it at his house, and that's something that very, I think, cinematic DMs like to do. But for that specific space, we can't do that. We would need more camera operators
Oh
to
yeah.
follow me, stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was starting streaming, I was like, obviously when you DM, you're sort of confined to a chair, but it's like I love getting into character and doing the voices and the expressions and the hand movements and stuff. And if it wasn't like a wall right here behind me, like if I actually had room to do it, I would, because just like you saw, when I know like the exact kind of clips you're talking about where he's like, the DM's like getting up in people's faces, and it's such, creates so much more of an experience. Like if I had the ability to do that, I absolutely would, because I don't know, I just love it. It's
Right.
a lot of fun.
And we're talking constantly about ways to make it feel as though everybody's more connected, and that's not the unfortunate thing about having to shoot in a studio. And if you've ever looked at some of the pictures that we put out, or that Hyper or
Hmm.
Critical Role throw up there, you're looking at how far away the DM is from not only the
Yeah.
camera but from his players, and it's almost like doing it directly over the internet. But
Hmm.
you do have a little bit more connectivity. And so we're constantly working on ways to hone it in and get it closer. And some of it has to do with, like, we know we can do it the next jump of technology that we need, or we're close. We just have to figure out how to make it look aesthetically pleasing with the aspect ratios, and figuring out which portion of the screen we can use for a thing, kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the whole. I know a couple streams that do their stuff in a studio, and it's, I guess when you actually get a look at the space they're using, like, I don't know, it's always like surprisingly convoluted. Which I think, I don't know, like I don't, because I don't DM I don't really do any live games anymore. But do you think like doing that stuff in a studio kind of, does it change the dynamic a little bit from like, does it sort of put things on a stage, I guess, rather than just being playing with your friends?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, but I think a lot of it has to do with the size of the stage. If you have a budget for things, what kind
Hmm.
of work you're having to do prior to coming into that. Like, for instance, Satine and I are basically a two-man operation outside of our players. So any tech stuff, and you can probably, I think most people that are streaming can probably identify with this, is that we are doing everything from pulling into the cameras the right way, getting the equipment, knowing how to use all the audio equipment. And there's like most nights before a stream, when you see me, I've not slept,
Hmm.
because we, especially during con season, when we go to a con, ship all of our equipment, come back, ship it all back, and have to set it back up that night before. So there's really a whole different aspect, as opposed to coming in, playing your game in a studio where other people have set it up, and all you're doing is bringing in,
Yeah.
a fresh, bushy-eyed set of players, and a DM who's had plenty of time to prep. You were talking about prep just a little bit ago, and for us, my prep typically consists almost more of fact checking because of our relationship with the different designers, with Keith, with Wizards, with people that make that content, because we want to be free, to live inside that world. And what that means is that we also have to be mindful not to go so far off the rails that it's no longer that world. Versus some DMs who do a lot of homebrew, which they can retcon anything.
I was gonna say that's really interesting that like your as a DM your style is interested in preserving the world at, I guess the canon world, rather than like, oh well, there's not this thing, I'll just homebrew it, I'll just kind of smooth it over to fit what I need.
I mean, there's so much stuff in that world.
Yeah.
If you look at Faerun, or you look at Eberron, or you look at the other settings like Spelljammer, or even one that's as contained as Ravenloft. There's so much rich stuff in there to pull from that you don't have to go through and make up a bunch of stuff. If you want to make additions to things, if you want to give somebody a specific story arc or element, those are all plenty of space to do that. But some people, I think, an artist specific kind of quote is, if you want to see me be as creative as possible, put me in a box.
Yeah.
So you have the lines, and it's like, how do I...
Oh, yeah, as I say a lot, I tell people a lot, as an artist, I think I work better with a design brief than without one. And as a DM, like, I think I'm a better editor than I am a homebrewer. I think that's just I know a lot of DMs who will, like, just make up a whole world from scratch, and for me it's like, I don't even know where to start. I'll just take this that's already been written and just use it as I need it,
Yeah, I mean, I already do a lot of that world building on a regular basis when I'm writing for film or for TV or something like that. So it's kind of refreshing to have a story document to work off of, even if it's 13 books worth of something that I constantly have to be, reference sourcing and stuff. The best part about playing in that published world is that I don't have to build it all from the ground up.
Yeah.
I can. There's nothing that stops me, but it gives me an opportunity to focus more on the mechanics and also on the players when I don't have to be building all of that other stuff.
Absolutely, man. I definitely understand you. And what's it called? Oh, so I was just reading. Sorry, someone popped up in my ear, but I was reading chat, and John Renicus, my friend Brendan, he says, he says he really he understands. He really likes. I really like the same way. Sometimes I feel like homebrew gets a little out of hand. It can. I've definitely seen some homebrews kind of go completely off the rails, and you don't really like. It's. I think the interesting, or the thing about some homebrews is you kind of lose the touchstones, the basics to kind of work off of, because you don't really because the homebrew is decided to be so different or so unique that it's you don't really know exactly where to start with it.
Right, and it's not like you can come into any given situation completely as a blank canvas. You're always, we all steal from each other. We all steal. Every artist steals. Every writer steals. Every actor steals. It's all just really mimicking things to an extent and trying to put your slant on it. But sometimes you push so hard to put your slant on it that you're creating a situation that's disrupting to players. And one of the things that we talked about on our panel with Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford this last weekend was about giving people the touchstone, like you said, of knowing that they can walk into a game and having a certain expectation of what that is.
Yeah.
If you were in a homebrew for 10 years, you're a veteran D&D player. But if that homebrew had 75 extra rules or dropped 75 rules, the next time you go in to play with somebody, whether it's at a store or a different place, you're going to be mildly disappointed because you're relearning the entire game.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said, and like, for example, I have a homebrew game, my homebrew Pathfinder game, not homebrew, my home Pathfinder game is we play in the Curse of the Crimson Throne Adventure Path, so it's set in the world of Golarion, and my players are all mostly veteran Pathfinder players, so they really enjoy the fact that, like, when a new character's introduced or a new faction is brought up, like, their in-game characters may not know what's going on, so they have to kind of, but in their mind, like, they know a little bit about what to expect. Like, they don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they have knowledge that will, allow them to appreciate some of the world building and some of the stuff that's going on, I think.
Right.
And that for some people that's really important. For other players it's a lot less important.
I think we get a little bit of the best of both worlds as far as Eberron is concerned, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of people's favorite setting, and they love the airships, they love the Warforged, Shifters, Kalistar, Psionics, Artificers. Like, there's so many things there that are really awesome. Even so much that Pathfinder was like, "Hey, let's play with these."
Yeah.
But it hasn't been developed yet into 5th edition. And so we got the opportunity to do a lot of that upgrading with Blessing, to make it something that they can come into and feel refreshed about. Plus, it's different from a lot of standard medieval or fantasy settings where the idea of them is to be, like the Lord of the Rings or something like that. Eberron is intentionally created to be a movie. It's supposed to be Indiana Jones, meets Blade Runner. It's basically like every Harrison Ford movie you could ever watch.
Yeah.
It's all of them slammed into one. So it gives us a lot of opportunity to play with different tropes in a way that other fantasy settings can't.
Yeah, again, I really like we talked about this a little bit before, but Eberron is one of those settings where I really appreciate the creativity and the cool nature of it, like the sort of the technological aspects, the city aspects and stuff like that. It's just I haven't gotten gotten around to playing a game in it, but I know enough about it that I really appreciate what it does kind of provide. Just, in the same way that's like I've never played Spelljammer, but I appreciate the fact that it's awesome.
Right. And for me, if I were playing in somebody's game and it's a homebrew, it almost makes it to where it's harder for me to be as immersed in it because there's not a bunch of stuff for me to read on it. I'm one of those people that absorbs story and knowledge very quickly. So I want to have a couple of books that I can go through and thumb through and see, like, oh, I really want to know more about the Silver Flame, or what's this thing about the Undying Court, or how did the world get started? Now I have to wait for my DM to tell me, and then that takes up 4 hours of game time that we could have been playing.
That's actually really interesting because, for example, I really enjoy running like published adventures because I like the process of editing them and making the stories better and adding content and stuff to them. But one of the things that I really enjoy, especially when it comes to the Pathfinder adventure paths, the fact that they're so fleshed out, is like at the beginning of the game, I can sort of hand my players a player's guide or like a guide to the setting. And it's like, you don't have to read all of this. Like, I don't need you to read this cover to cover. But what I do need you to do is to kind of thumb through it and find something that you think is really cool or resonates with you, and we'll build your character around that.
That's right. And that's what I do actually for all of our guests. So if you'll notice, like, the things that I do homebrew for Maze Arcana are subclasses or classes for the characters. Obviously, when we started, there wasn't an Artificer put out, and there hasn't been really a Scion except for a couple of little UA updates. And when you look at, there's not a Devout Rogue, right? But one of our characters plays a Divine Herald. So, and I tied that into how the Silver Flame looks at things and how she wanted to play things. And then also the same thing with all of our guest stars when they come on. I built Eugene's character from Game of Thrones. I basically built it kind of like him because that was something that we had talked about before. And John Schnepp, when he came on, he was like, yeah, I really like barbarians, but like I like to be jolly. I like to be kind of like happy-go-lucky. And so like I gave him the path of the courageous heart or something like that. And I built this thing based on what he, some features or things that he thought would be cool. And I just, okay, how do I blend these together? So that's what I spend a lot of my time homebrewing, is things that fit in the world that they're going to be all right with,
Yeah, absolutely. Just checking out chat right now. My friend, Cranky Old Mage says that he's gonna have to add another D&D show to his list. So I think he's gonna probably check out the Maze Arcana show. Speaking of that, I know. We've been talking a lot about the setting, but do you want to tell us a little bit about the show itself?
Yeah, sure.
Kind of like what you guys get up to and kind of where you consider it or where you kind of find it fitting in the world of D&D shows and all that?
Sure. Well, we actually had both good nature, or yes, good fortune and the just, like extra added benefit, we'll just say, of needing to clear the stuff we were going to be doing through Wizards for the license.
Okay.
We're also the only licensed Eberron show, so that's like kind of a big, deal. We're actually allowed to use the logos. If somebody else uses a logo, they get a call from legal.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had this really cool thing that we went through, and it made me put a lot of thought and effort behind what we were going to do. And I even wrote like the story document, kind of like you're talking about, where the last installment of Eberron is, I think, 996 YK, and ours comes in 1002. So there's not a huge time shift, but there's enough time for a couple of things to have happened that update the world to a little bit more 5e feel. For instance, Eberron is one of these things where it's kind of we call it Arcana Punk, but it's like a little bit higher technology level, but it's all based on a very low grade but widespread type of magic that the Dragonmarked houses have helped cultivate over time. And then you have artificers and mage rights. And a lot of them are the ones that drive the technology that doesn't just benefit rich people, benefits everybody, but definitely the rich people. So our setting is very much about having conveniences that other settings don't have through Magic. But one of the big things about 5e is a much more stringent item economy. So there's not magic items that are just artifacts floating around that everybody has, all of their attunement slots, or every toe has those things where you really have to be choosy about when do you give a magic item, where do they come from, is this something that's going to be valuable to the players, and that's something I really get into, especially or that's something I really put a lot of effort into when putting together the story document for Wizards, so that they knew that I wasn't just like gonna Yahoo down the rail. And then I think the other thing that I'm really into about Eberron, like why I kind of prefer it as our streaming choice at the moment, is because it is all about the gray area. There is no all good, there is no all evil. It's all about the way that you approach your goals. You could have a very altruistic goal like peace, right? But if your answer to it is to kill your, family in order to get it, are you really, the peaceful, law-loving person you're trying to kind of feel out? Or are you doing it more in the sense of selfishness? There could be some element there that's that. So we like to make sure that our alignment is less of an importance to how are people actually going to carry out the path to the goals.
Now, just as an addendum to that, do you guys actually sort of, I mean, do you like if the actual kind of labels of the alignments are kind of slightly matter slightly less than the actions themselves, do you still kind of use the alignments as mechanical effects?
So I have a system that I use. It's kind of like a renown system. Forget exactly what I call it off the top of my head right now, but basically the things that are witnessed by the people of a specific area or by people of a specific affluence come across a little bit more. So you could be in one town, you could be loved by the poor people and hated by the rich people for doing the same thing that may actually have a good effect but thwarted somebody's money-making scheme or anything like that. So we're very, the alignments are, I don't even know if anybody has an alignment on their character sheet, because it really just has to do with like, well, are you going to be an asshole today or not? What's up?
Fair enough. I mean, the reason I ask is because I mean, I know there's a lot of argument on it, but I actually really like the concept of alignments as sort of distinctions, because they do a solid job of, I mean, even if you're not if you're not saying like your alignment is chaotic good or your alignment is lawful good, you have to be that, and if you don't, I'm gonna slap you on the wrist. Though, it does make sense to say like, okay, well, if you have powers that are tied to specifically to your following a certain ideal, or in the paladin sense, or just as like, I like spells that have mechanical distinctions. In Pathfinder, for example, everyone has an alignment, and that means there are good and there are evil people, and to sort of make sense in the sort of the high magic world that is, there are evil people and there are spells to mask the fact that you are evil. And if if you take alignment out of that, well then you obviously have to take out those spells. Those spells really don't do anything. I mean, you could reflavor them to kind of hide someone's dickishness, I guess, but but the idea is, like, I think there's a lot of cool story stuff just in those little nooks and crannies that a lot of people just kind of wash away when they say, like, no, alignments don't do any, like, I don't like the way they work.
Oh no, our NPCs all have an alignment at any given time because they have a specific way that they're going to view somebody who does one thing or the other. But if a person raises a zombie in the woods, is that something that should be affected by alignment? Should they have to cast another spell to mask that? D&D has
I don't know.
all of this stuff ready to go where if you want to, like, that's what subtle spell is for, right? So certain classes are supposed to be able to get away with that. And there should be a consequence for your choice to do that, not just like, oh no, please look the other way while I'm casting summon undead army.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I'm good. Like, it should be, if there's a reason that you're doing it, that's like saying there can't be any good necromancers. Why would you want to pigeonhole somebody like that?
Well, the thing that's interesting, and this is something I talk about with newer players and stuff a lot, is when people kind of want to get in the alignment discussion, they're like, I think the alignment system as a whole has the unfortunate nature of using the wrong words to describe it, because the terms good and evil are they have very specific meanings in the English language, which are very distinct from their mechanical meaning in the game. But there's nothing that in the book that really tells you that. So a lot of people just assume that good is good and evil is evil. But it's like it's not. It doesn't really. It's not that clear cut, because it's more about selfishness and selflessness of the acts themselves.
Well, and so also, what is your definition of lawful?
Well, so if good and evil mean sort of selfish or selfless, or the other way around, lawful and chaotic would be sort of how you go about achieving those goals. Obviously, a lawful person has a specific code. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a written codified law on legally, but it's a code by which they do things, which is why there's a such thing as lawful evil. For example, devils are lawful evil because they love the shit out of contracts. They will make a contract and they will not break a contract because they have a code by which they do things.
Exactly. So the problem that you get with alignments is that early on, especially when you're introducing new players, and if you watch Maze Arcana, what you'll see is a lot of us educating new people to 5th edition or to the idea of the group mentality versus a video game mentality. So the thing that you'll get with a lot of lawful good idea characters, especially when you have that trope of the lawful good paladin, you're talking about somebody who follows the rules of the land. And that's really a hamstring more than it is a proper character trait.
It could be the laws of the land, or it could be a specific code that they have been handed from their religious order.
But that's something that the DM has to be very careful about qualifying, because otherwise it just means.
Oh no, you're absolutely right, and that's I guess that's kind of my whole point. Is I think there's a lot of nuance to the discussion that I think is sort of missed when people just kind of wipe the whole system away, and they're like, it hampers roleplay. It's not very good, There are plenty of issues, I absolutely admit, but I don't know. It's a discussion I enjoy having because there's subtleties in there that I think are interesting to explore, especially from a DM perspective.
Right. Well, I think that for taking this on the side of acting, like I've studied acting for quite a long time, and I've never gotten a character that in somewhere on there it's been like, this guy's lawful evil, or this guy's this. It's more described by a sentence or two about a person, and then like a quote. So even the way that they've gone to this system where you have traits, flaws, you've got multiple things that help give you parameters for things like how this character might handle a situation, so that people aren't just playing themselves in everything, because that's really your default if you go through and you apply alignment, or you apply yourself to a character and you don't understand the difference really between metagaming and RP. So especially for probably a lot of us out here, I mean, I don't even know what the Critical Role characters would be classified as, except for the majority of them are probably good. So outside of that, and even Adventures League, which we'll talk a little bit more about
Hmm.
later, but even Adventures League doesn't allow anything lower than lawful evil,
Yeah,
and
Pathfinder
even
Society
those
is the same
lawful
way.
evil, yeah. And so both of those organized play situations are very specific and careful about that because of how people take the alignment system at a one word value.
Yeah, no, and that's sort of, again, I think that's my central issue with it, is because like, if whenever I find whenever I tell people like, no, it's not good and evil, it's are you selfish, is your action serving yourself before or at the expense of other people, then it's an evil act, that's what it means. And people are like,
Right.
oh, that's what it means, like, now I get it, now it makes sense. But
Right.
that's why I think it's a language problem on the whole.
It's that, and a lot of it has to do with like what is the DM willing to make caveats for? Does the DM even care? Is this going to be a murder hobo campaign?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of situations for me in our games where it's like, who saw somebody do that? I even have two players right now that are both a part of the Silver Flame. It's part of the same church, and they both try to holier than thou each other,
Hmm.
and it's awesome to see them like sin because they want to be like, oh yeah, like you're a liar, and they'll just like flat faces. Well, you stole something. It's like, no, I didn't steal it. It was laying in the middle of the street, and I picked it up. Well, I didn't lie. I was like, oh yeah, no, that was a pretty bold faced lie. And but nobody else in the group heard it because she was in earshot of the other character. So they're just going back and forth on this stuff, and it's actually kind of entertaining for me as long as
Yeah.
they remember that it's all in fun and they're, sometimes players can get a little upset with each other instead of understanding where the line for characters ends.
Yeah, we just had a discussion like that on Discord actually recently. There's always, for me, I've never had players. Well, I've had, basically, in my experience, I whenever a player, like, an in character moment is happening where one character is angry or displeased or distrustful of another character, it always, like, in my head, I'm always kind of really nervous. I'm like, is this just in character? Are they actually mad with each other, like, as players? And I always have to sort of ask the question, but like, is everyone still cool? Because I don't want this. And they're like, no, it's an in character thing. It's fine. Like, I know, like, I love the fact that his character's an asshole. Like, it makes it better. And then, but yeah, I always have to kind of be wary about whether that is actually developing, because it's hard to tell.
Yeah, well, that's good though. It means that you're being attentive and you're listening to your players. One of the things that a lot of DMs forget to do really is they listen to their players. The stories aren't really yours.
Hmm.
They're the tables or the groups. It doesn't matter what you write or prepare. It's about the same thing as them going off and creating, an elaborate backstory for their character. It's a living document that you two are going to build as you go, and the legend of that game and that crew is something that everybody has to play with. The DM is no, it might be playing the banker of sorts, but they're still a player. They're
Hmm.
not an omnipotent being. They're not trying to kill anybody, or at least no DMs that I know are actively working at it. Some Adventures League guys might be, but that really depends on how aggressive is that player being with everybody else. Because I don't mind killing somebody if they're being a jerk to the rest of the group.
See, I don't think I'd ever, like, I'd never handle a situation that way, but it's like, I certainly try and kill, like, my homebrew game, not home, I keep saying that, my home game, I'm absolutely trying to kill the players, because they are so optimized and so tough to deal damage, like, just a hit in combat, that if I don't come into every fight, like, swinging hard, they'll put down most enemies without much challenge.
Right. Well, that's where I like to make it more about the environment and more about the situation that they're walking into instead of
Yeah.
just a mob that's in front of them.
No, yeah, and
There are ways that we can hamstring people
yeah.
to make it, because if there's no threat, if they don't feel that, then they're not gonna they're gonna I rolled 2D, so I got a 17. Yeah, okay, good. Next. Like it'll be very boring for everybody. But when somebody is hanging on by a hit or two, they're on the edge of their seat.
Ironically, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but Fights in D&D are a very strange they're a very strange beast, because on one hand you can have a fight that is tooth and nail, like where they get down to like one hit point trying to kill that monster, like you just said, and that's a really, really tense moment. They might die, and the players are really trying to figure out how to stay alive. But on the other hand, and that's always a great moment. Those create great story moments. But I've had fights where the players steamrolled the encounter. Like, they did not a single one of them got touched. And then at the end of the fight, they're like, "Holy shit, guys, that was really close." Like, and it's
all about how you give them that extra little excitement or danger on the other side. Where do they think that they could possibly make a pitfall?
Yeah, it's like I said. It's a really interesting beast, because I think, like you were saying before, it really comes down to how you deliver the information to the players and how you kind of create that tension. Like, if they think they can die at any second, it doesn't matter if none of them take any damage. They feel like they could die at any second.
Absolutely. Do you want to do another, like, real fast, like, kind of promotional thing where you talk about giveaways? And I'm gonna make some more tea.
Oh yeah, sure. Why not? If you guys are, so he's going to go restock on his tea. But if you guys, we're actually coming up on 9 o'clock here. So if you guys have not already, obviously hit that exclamation point giveaway in chat. There it is. And you can jump into our monthly DMs kit giveaway. Also, what else? If you haven't already retweeted, go hit that retweet. Obviously, you can check us out on Twitter. Let me go ahead and mute that so you guys don't have to hear the banging around of cups over there. But yeah, if you haven't already followed on Twitter, it's just at Askren, just exclamation point social. And you can keep up with everything that's going on around the channel. Like I said before, there will not be a stream next weekend because I'm going to be at PAX this weekend. I'm sorry, but we do have some cool goodies and some stuff coming up for you. Yes, as Brendan says, if you haven't already, hop on the Discord. It's exclamation point Discord right there, and you can get all that good stuff. We have DM discussion on the Discord. You can talk about all the shows that happen on this channel. You can just hang out and, just chat about role-playing games. What was the other? There was one other thing that I hadn't mentioned. Two things I wanted to mention, actually. If you haven't already, exclamation point Wisp. Dice Thulu will tell you how you can subscribe to the channel, become a Game Wisp subscriber, and one of Dice Thulu's chosen minions. You get all kinds of really cool benefits, Discord stuff. You get ways that you can interact with the live games that we have here, and other benefits are being added all the time. It's just $5, like you subscribe to any Twitch channel. So go ahead and do that. And I wanted to thank my good friend Tunarth before for his $20 donation. He says, "What? Why is the bar so empty? That won't do it all." Thank you so much, Tunarth. As you guys know, we don't really have donation stuff during the Fuzzy Dice talk show, but Tunarth is always too generous. So I don't know. Maybe he wants me to hashtag butts or something like that. I don't know. Whatever he wants.
Maybe he's really excited to get some of that one of those wormwood coffins.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Tunarth is ridiculously generous with his contributions, and we have no idea why. But I think we do have a couple of those wormwood things to give away. I think we will probably, since we're going to PAX, we could, you know what? I hadn't actually planned on it, but why don't we go ahead and while we're setting up for the next section, I will tweet that we're going to be giving away one of those, and we'll make it happen. We're going to be giving away this tonight. It is one of our awesome Wormwood dice vaults. This one is Black Poisonwood, which is the coolest thing I've ever heard. So that's right there. I'm gonna go tweet about that. But if you guys want in on that, it's happening at the end of the show. But since Ruty is back, did you want to before we dive into questions and stuff, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the charity that you guys host for.
Yeah, well, I guess sort of in the I didn't want to be too long-winded when you asked like where I came from and what I did, but
that's all good.
We can go ahead and talk about the genesis of Maze Arcana.
Yeah, do it. Whatever, we're all good, man.
All right, cool. So we started out because Satine ran this celebrity charity 20 thing for God since 2010 or 2009 or something from Meltdown Comics, and basically what that was her getting together a bunch of her friends, whether they were artists or actors or writers, and Keith Baker coming in and Matt Mercer coming in. It's actually where he got his start in streaming as well. Was that everybody would come in and they'd play, and those guys would DM. I think Satine DM from time to time, but they would all just basically play and raise money for the for child literacy. So this year we went back in and did that, and it was kind of incredible. But that all stemmed off of meeting her and Chris Lindsay at the Storm King's Thunder launch there at Meltdown as well.
Oh yeah,
So,
I watched that.
yeah, it was fun. So we were sitting there at Chris Lindsay's table playing, and the three of us just got really enjoyed it, really hit it off. And kind of from that, both the beginning of the license and the CCD20 thing started. We raised, a nice little chunk of change in about 10 hours for children's literacy, and people were pretty impressed with that, and that started the dominoes to kind of where we are. And then from there, she was just like, hey, so do you want to do more things? Like, I don't know, live stream D&D? And I was like, yeah, I would love to. That's like something that we just, talked about earlier. And that's kind of how we got rolling on this ball. But the way that I got into the whole thing in the first place was Adventures League, So, and that basically comes from actually those same guys that are on our Peanut Gallery show, which we just launched this last, on Sunday. We did it from Card Kingdom there in Seattle while we were up there for ECC. C. There's so many C's in that one.
It's even worse with the New York NYCCC. New York City Comic Con.
Yeah, it's you. So you feel my pain.
Yes.
So we were, we were up there with Bill Benham and Travis Woodall and Chris Lindsay, and that first PAX West that we were out there, when they gave us the license, we'd all just kind of got stuck in one room with Chris Perkins DMing, and we were such a hoot together that we got excited about doing a live stream with them too, and eventually it kind of like changed into that. And it's a very different feel, but it actually runs in the same setting, same timeline too, where they actually affect each other back and forth. So we're really excited about launching that one, which is going to be on Mondays, but you can see it recently on Twitch. It's still sitting up there, and then we're starting to put it up on YouTube. We do a release kind of like every day for those. But that all is basically how we got started with Maze Arcana, and then just recruiting some of our friends from here that wanted to play, and we already had like a little bit of a home game started. That was kind of how Satine and I were playing with some of the people that we have up there now, and we were like, this would be really fun to live stream. Like, this is a good thing. We have the capabilities. Let's do it. So that's basically that. But my start was in Adventures League for sure.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this before the stream, but I know you were telling me how you're really passionate about the Adventures League and sort of running DM in those kind of organized spaces, which, as I mentioned, is something I have very, very little experience with. Right.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of DMs, and this is something that we've run into, because Satine and I actually both run a meetup group in LA. We have over 800 members in each group, and the point of them, one of them is for home game setups, and then the other one is for stores, and we allow stores to come on and talk about like, hey, this is our show for today, or this is our specific D&D day, and we allow them to come on and set up their tables so that people can join and play, because it's all about the community. But we've noticed that a lot of DMs seem to be really worried about running official content because they're afraid they're going to mess it up, right? But one of the things that I learned really early in Adventures League was that it's actually less important if you're perfect about everything, and more that you're embodying the shape of the game and you just hit the intro and the exit. Everything else in the middle, as long as you're not going off the rails and bringing a troop of Warforged into Faerun for no reason, they're pretty happy with how a lot of that stuff goes. And it gives you something standardized that you can take and move to If I were to come to New York, I know 4 or 5 game stores there in New York that I could just go to
Hmm.
and play with any of my characters, or DM something. And if I go into that and I just have the urge to DM, those players that sit down at my table aren't going to be like, okay, what are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah.
They're going to have a pretty standard idea. So, it's easy to learn by repetition, no matter who DMs you or how many DMs you have. It gives you like a really realistic expectation from one session to another, a group to the other. That's kind of like what we were talking about with that disenfranchisement before.
Yeah.
And it gives you an alternative if you're a player who can't dedicate any specific night and specific time to play. You can figure out something that works for your schedule, or if you're traveling. And then they also have some really cool stuff that you can only do at cons, like epics. It would be near impossible for you to run an epic in your house,
Yeah.
if you could even get your hands on one. But one of the things that they make specifically for conventions to enhance that community is the epic campaign dungeons, where you are expelling Vorgan Sherox out of Flan, and it takes 30 tables to do it.
Hmm.
They're starting to make them to where now they have like an intermediate. So they kind of did what WoW did, where you started at like 40 people in a
Yeah.
raid, and then now it was 25, and then they did a 10. So now they've got little things that are interactives, which are like 2 tables worth.
Yeah.
And then they've got things that are mini epics, which are like 25 people. So like, 5 to 12 tables. But those things are really fun for somebody to be able to get involved with if they don't have a standard regular group. And the great thing that happens from that is you get really into spending time with these people that you have started this journey with, and that you all kind of have a similar conversation about, because you've all played the same modules. And you can play the books just as easily. So you can, have a campaign at home where you're playing through Strahd, and then you can go to the game store on a specific night, or you can go to cons and play content that runs alongside it, that other people have generated basically just for you to come in and have fun with.
Yeah, there's a lot of again, I've never got into it because when I started in back in 4th edition, when I got back into D&D, it was encounters, and no one around here I knew did it, and obviously no one I knew played. Like, I don't think anyone on the island ran Pathfinder Society, but I really like especially what you're talking about with the the kind of group content, and the way that sort of Wizards has been creating ways to kind of incentivize DMs and players to like come back at week after week and run these adventures and stuff, and continue doing it like that. I've seen them doing that, and it's like one of the things that I really appreciated that from the Wings, because I think that's it's really cool that to support the kind of the content on the ground like that. I think, which anything you can get players, and especially DMs, sort of encourage more people to step up and take the DM role, and stick with it is really, really good for the community as a whole.
Yeah, well, I think that coming in as a DM, one of the best parts of that is that it gives you a sort of a sanctuary for that learning ground, whether you're a DM or a player. But the community as a whole is somewhere where you can learn the genre from other people, from some veterans. There's a lot of designers that play there because that's the only chance they get. And it's a safe place. Like nobody's really going to get upset with you, especially if you're a new DM, because everybody's really just excited that you're there.
Yeah.
That's kind of something that is probably different from how the tabletop gaming industry used to be, when you would have a lot of those people that were curmudgeons about you joining it.
Yeah, that's how it was when back in the game store days.
Right, but now it's not like that, and I think that's a very important thing that I hope Wizards finds a way to punctuate, and I certainly go about making sure everybody knows, because that's where my experience started. And if I hadn't been as welcomed as I was, I might feel the same way. But they were so excited about me coming, and to the point where like all of a sudden I have like organizers that are, saying, hey, do you want to come do a playtest for this thing? Hey, do you want to do this or that? Like if you're excited about it, they're going to be excited. And there's really not anywhere else that you can learn the different types of role play in such an open, obvious way, and with getting different perspectives on it. Because you go to a specific, you do a house game. Everybody in that house game probably has a pretty close variance of what they are. That's how they get along so well.
Yeah.
But going into Adventures League gives you the opportunity to learn both active and descriptive role playing, and how they can mesh together. Plus, it teaches you how to interact with different DMs and how to really kind of keep yourself in check
Yeah.
in a lot of situations where, other home games may not give you that opportunity. So,
Yeah, I think again this it what like we said before, back in the days where like when I was starting to play D&D, this was when I was in high school and I was playing Warhammer, and there's the group in the corner that was always in the game store every week playing D&D, and it's like you kind of, if you wanted to learn, if you wanted to start playing, you probably wouldn't approach them and say, "Hey guys, can I play?" Because because I think when you're in private, when you're playing among your friends or you're in a group like that, there's not really any onus on the players or the people in that group to be welcoming or be kind of behave themselves essentially. But when you're in sort of a public setting where you don't know who you're going to play with and you're just kind of, you're interacting with strangers, there's a little bit more of an impetus to be a decent person.
right. And there's not a situation there where you're not going to learn something valuable about human interaction.
Yeah.
You're talking about not just role play, but you're talking about like the ability to figure out how groupthink works and also how to apply critical thinking to those and to communicate that and to cooperatively bridge tasks, solving problems and stuff, which is kind of big in the way that our community is basically social media driven now.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to ask about that, and this is slightly off topic, but while I never played Pathfinder Society or the Adventures League, what I do is I have all of the adventures on like in my all the stuff that they published in my DM resources folder, because, and I was saying this on Discord earlier, I said like those little adventures make really, really good structures if you need to run an emergency one shot.
Right, and I think I saw somebody say something earlier about being worried about running them because there's just so much that they don't know, like the content they aren't aware of. And really, it kind of doesn't, like, you're okay because everything you need to know about that area, about that thing, is right there.
Yeah.
And the players, again, recognize that you're there because you want to be and because you want to take care of them. And they're not there trying to upend you or screw your story or anything like that, because everybody's just there to have that opportunity to do it together. So if you were to be that player that's coming in trying to screw your DM, it's not going to take very long for you to get ousted from a table. Satine and I run, like I said, those meetup groups, and so we go to the stores. We're there, and if somebody does something that is against the Adventures League code of conduct, if they're misogynistic or if they're screaming profanities at the top of their lung or they're being aggressive towards people, and
the screaming at the top of your lungs, best way to play D&D, by the way.
Can be. If it's excitement, if it's with everybody, then yeah. But if you're screaming at somebody, even if it's in character to a certain way, but you're making them feel incredibly uncomfortable, and we're not even talking about one of those like, oh, it's, 2016 and everybody's got feelings. We're just talking about like being a good, decent human being. If you're not doing these things and you can't play nicely with other people, I have no problem telling you you're not allowed to come back. You're not going to do anything about it except for leave, because you're going to sit down at a table and everybody else is going to get up and walk away.
Yeah, it's again, it's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, like I think it's very, very similar to when you're doing a live stream show too. It's like, you have a reason to keep your behavior in check because you're not in private, you're in a public place and there are people around, and though to be fair, if you've never tried it, play D&D only screaming profanities. Very cathartic.
I'm sure just about anything where you're only screaming profanities is going to be pretty cathartic. But, like the best part for me, what I really latched onto and thrived on there was being able to introduce new people to it and making them feel welcome when they sat down. And I got really used to it because you're doing it constantly if you're DMing Adventures League. And then beyond that, you're teaching people how to feel that campaign camaraderie, like how a group can become a group that quickly in one session, giving them an idea of what a long-term, multi-year kind of campaign can be like, but you're doing it just in that one game. So that's a pretty important thing for me. That, and you're talking about RPG etiquette, and you better learn that stuff now, because if you're that guy that comes in later and you're being a jerk to everybody, it's not going to go well for you. You won't be asked back to the store.
Yeah, no, I get you, man. So we obviously lot of cool stuff going on with Adventures League, and honestly, I wish I had more free time and I wasn't streaming every night of the week, or I would probably find, like, I don't know if there is an Adventures League near me, but I know some in the city. I'd probably go hang out.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where you're based out of, but I know there's a place called the Brick House or Brickyard or something like that. Big little gaming store over there. I could probably just Google it and figure it out. But we have some friends that play there that are friends from LA that are artists that play there every Thursday, every Wednesday.
Is that in the city?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
I know a lot of game stores here. I don't know if any of them run. I know some of them do organized Magic stuff. I haven't been back in a while. My
Let me tell you how hard it is to get that set up. Hey, you got a free table? Yeah, great. I'm gonna come in and play D&D here. Great.
Yeah, no,
What
like
do you need?
I encourage. We talk a lot, and we're probably going to get at least one or two questions like this when we go to the questions part. But always a question about how to get started playing D&D, and it's like I always tell people, if you have a game store near you, just go in and ask if anyone's looking for a game or has a game. Like just go sit down and do it.
Well, there's a ton of resources. Like I said, we have the meetup, but even Wizards has you can go to their Adventures League site, and it shows you how to get involved in games, and even has links to other places where there's signups you can do, where there's situations where people come in and they're like, yeah, I have no idea where to do this thing, and somebody's like, hey, great, I live 30 minutes from you. Why don't you come to my house for a game? Or why don't you come to this store? There's a lot of places to go, and then like you were saying, a lot of the incentives to get players to come back or get DMs to do things are built into how Adventures League runs now with the DM rewards. But on top of that, like at cons, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Herald's Guild yet, but
no, I'm not familiar.
So it's kind of taking over the local coordinator and regional coordinator positions that D&D had before, but it's now under Baldman Gaming, which runs a lot of the conventions, especially the ones in the Midwest. So one of the things that they do is they make sure that their DMs have a certain rating, and the DMs get like physical, tangible rewards for it. Like, oh, you wanted the next book? Here it is 2 weeks before it releases. Like, that's pretty sweet to have, the next Splat book or Sword Coast or whatever that's going to be coming out in advance, and get to, and then if you're really showing people that you know what you're doing, all of a sudden you get to write content for one of the local cons. Like, how cool is that now your stuff is now going to be there? Like, I'm fortunate that I get to write some stuff with them, and I get to do things that are going to be at Gen Con. So like when I see you there, we'll be like, hey, check this out, and you'll be like, yeah, I wanted to get it, so I'll have a copy of it for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How cool is that? One of the things, I think that, like, I think it's really cool. I said this before, that Wizards was really really getting on the ground and kind of incentivizing and rewarding the DMs and the people that put in the work to do this stuff, because I think that's one of the reasons the older organized play was a lot less successful, is because there wasn't really, like, I think the companies tended, Wizards and Paizo and stuff like that, were a little bit more hands off. But one of the things I think would be interesting, and I actually it makes me kind of want to go talk to Greg about this and see if Wizards has any plans to do, because it's taking off so much, to do the sort of Adventures League style stuff, random players and stuff like that, randomized players, all that, on, for streamers, like support streamers in that way.
I'm curious. How exactly do you see that working out?
Well, see, because I mean, again, it's a thought for me, because I know a lot of D&D streamers that do, like, they do rotating cast shows, like they'll bring in viewers to play games and stuff, like new players, this and that. Not like you and I do a show where it's like same cast every week, this is our D&D game, but rather it's like tonight, okay, we're gonna take, our players are pulled from our viewer pool, like every week. One of my friends runs a channel where for almost a year he did a show every Thursday that was just viewers coming on to play, and it was different people every time, and it was always and I mean, that's essentially the organized play format.
I can neither confirm nor deny any type of involvement with any type of situation where that could be into play, but I do think that you have a solid idea with making sure that the community, again, that's my big harp string, is that the community feels like they're connected to not just the game, but to the creators, and that they're being listened to when they ask for something specific, or when they're trying to figure out, oh, well, who do we bring in to do this thing? Oh, I don't know. You want to go sit next to Joe Manganiello? Yeah, that'd be cool. You want to hang out with Satine Phoenix? I mean, maybe that kind of thing is like pretty sweet
Hmm.
for fans to get to do. And like, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that that's a wonderful situation. Would you like to be DM'd by Matt Mercer? Situations where these things
I mean,
could possibly happen.
I'd like it to, but I think I might be doing something that day. Like I might be busy. No,
Could
no.
be.
The only reason I bring it up is because I mean I don't know how involved you are within it, but like the thing we do here is live stream D&D, and it's so much of our viewer base and so many of the people that kind of come to watch and come to hang out are people that don't have access to, may not have access to regular games and stuff around them. Maybe there isn't an Adventurers League near them, or there aren't enough people to organize that. And so, and also just in general, the kind of live stream thing. And obviously, you guys, stream your stuff, so you know how big it is, how big it's getting, and how many people are kind of turning out for that. So I assume if any, like there would be people that would love to sort of get in, be able to maybe get in with some of their favorite stream DMs play, running a game on their channel. It's like, okay, I get to, rather than I get to sit at a table with this, with these people, it's like I get to sit with, my favorite D&D streamer and play a game for a week, Again, I don't know. That's just a thing that I was thinking, because you were talking about how cool it was and how cool it was for the community, and I'm like, I like it, but I also like streaming D&D.
Yeah, well, we have a great time with the streaming, but we also, I mean, and you can see like we have an April schedule coming up and stuff that's going to happen in the summer that we're gonna eventually reveal. But a lot of our stuff is going to be based around D&D. But we've got some other little things, like we just announced Kick It, which is basically us and our friends that are game designers that have things on Kickstarter. So, when Keith was doing Phoenix Dawn Command, we would be like, hey, Keith, either come run it with us, come play with us, or come do, or send me a copy and I'll run it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever is easy enough. We'll have fun with things like that. It doesn't all have to be D&D, but we're pretty heavy with that. But on the same token, if somebody wanted to come out and play on the stream, yeah, that could be something they want to do. A lot of people don't want to be seen, and another way that they would be, feel a little better about it, or they don't want to be seen by, anybody kind of thing. They'd be fine coming to a store. So Satine and I go out into the community, and we're not just those people that are like, oh, you should go buy D&D. It's awesome, blah, blah. We run games at stores. We both do.
Oh, yeah.
And we find that it's very important to hit those different stores and go in and be like, hey, we're going to be here this Thursday. If you want to come play, we're going to do a sign up sheet for both of our individual games later this week, and give them a time and a date. And if they want to come play, they can play. And we'll do that whether we're at a con, like a Gary Con, for instance. We're both running a module that is based in Eberron that I've designed, that you're going to basically, like, I don't want to ruin anything for people, but I know there's also only a handful of people that are going to get to play. So, you'll get to really mess with some of the stuff that Eberron has, but you'll get to do it with the 5e background so that you're not flailing about trying to figure out how to upgrade your swift actions and things.
Yeah.
So, those are ways that we make sure that when we go to cons, we're accessible. Like after our panel at ECC, Perkins had brought the original manuscript that Keith Baker put in for Eberron, right?
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
That has like has all of the old names for things in it, and before certain continents were around and things like that. And they were like, we all just afterwards were like, hey, do you guys want to we'll just pop into the next room so that we can get out of the way for this panel, and we'll go do. We'll go sit in the other room and answer questions or whatever. And that became a thing where we had standing room only in the next room over that was never intended to be a panel room. It was just a bunch of us sitting around the table. So giving people the opportunity to have a community type feeling with Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford and Satine sitting there is huge, in my opinion, because it lets people know that not only are they connected, but that we're all in this little thing together to make sure that our community of tabletoppers survives,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, definitely good stuff. And I mean, I was just emailing him. I will most likely pester Greg Tito about the. I know he had said something about a streamer's outreach, so I'll probably pester him about that just because I want to see what he says. But no, definitely good stuff. Like I encourage everyone, if you haven't already, obviously, take Rudy's advice and get out to your local Adventures League if you want some D&D, if you have one and you can make it out. So are you cool with you want to start taking some questions? I know we got a bunch of people hanging out. All right, so let me just tweet this out. If you guys are hanging in chat, it's !Fuzzy. Dice Thulu will tell you that we're gonna take your live questions here. Anything you want to ask us, no matter how weirdly personal. I promise someone will answer them. I can't guarantee it'll be us. But if you wanna tweet the questions, you can tweet them to me, or if you're gonna be in chat, just make sure you either like write question in capital letters or you tag @Exploding Dice so I see them, because otherwise they kind of blend into chat and I lose them. But anything you want to ask us. Obviously, I have some questions stored in the backlog if we don't have enough, but I'm sure we will. And I will tweet this out because at the end of the show we're gonna be giving away some Wormwood stuff. So let me just do that. But before we, I guess, while we're waiting for a question or two, a couple of my people in chat here, Cranky Old Mage especially, they're talking about. I'm assuming you saw it, talking about how a lot of people are getting into D&D on Roll20 now. It's opening up a lot of avenues for people who don't otherwise have the ability to kind of get out and play with a real group.
Are you asking me what I think about
it? I mean, do you like have you interacted with it? Like a lot. Again, I know I use Roll20 is almost exclusively how I DM these days. Basically, I mostly because I just live out in the middle of nowhere, and I don't have I don't like. I used to play with a group, but it's like I don't anymore. All my friends are gone. My friends moved away and are off with their careers. So honestly, I think if it weren't for Roll20, I probably wouldn't be DMing, much less running a streaming channel.
I'm doing a tweet here for you at the
absolutely.
same time. So I think that with Roll20, there's I really enjoyed the time that I spent on Roll20 with some of my friends. That I ended up going up to to Iowa to be in the wedding for one of my friends that I played with on Roll20, and he's never even he's been to California like once. It wasn't for me, so it wasn't like a thing where I knew this guy for many years first, and then we did this thing. We basically had a lot of our personal relationship stuff happening, friendship stuff happening on Roll20. So I really like the things that you can do on Roll20 as far as macros, and it gives you a little visual cue and stuff like that. My biggest qualm with it is that I prefer to do a different style of prep than that allows, and without me front loading an entire campaign into Roll20, it just makes it a little bit tougher for me to be as mobile and agile as I want to be, and give my players the amount of freedom. Some DMs like to give players the illusion of freedom, whereas I actually like to give them almost as much freedom as they could possibly have without destroying the world that they're in, especially when it's not my world.
Now that's really interesting. What I guess. Because I definitely get what you're saying in the sense that Roll20 is very specific prep style, in the sense that it's like I guess it can work sort of very, very loose and very freeform, but I think the way it expects you to prep games is, again, like you kind of drop your map, and you set up a map, you set up the enemies and the tokens in it, and then like when you need it, you kind of move the players there, and you have your combat and stuff. And it's the same thing with dungeon crawls. It's like you set up your dungeon, you do the dynamic lighting, and they kind of walk through the hallways. But what do you consider your prep style that's different than sort of what it's kind of expecting, I guess?
I would say that I like to have a little bit more fluid angle on the story, but also on when it. I like the idea of softballs, right?
Hmm.
In improv, we call it birthday cake. You know, it's like it's different things where you have somebody throws you something that is too good to ignore, s- being like, "Oh, that's awesome," but I've got this room set up is not something that I ever want to do to somebody.
Hmm.
So moving rooms around, moving the creatures about, not letting people see how much a creature is necessarily hurt.
Hmm.
Those sort of things where I can do better myself than a computer application is going to for making the creatures intimidating, making the environment friendly or intimidating, or setting a mood. I love the dynamic lighting,
Hmm.
but nothing is as good as sitting around a campfire with a flashlight under your face.
Yeah, I get you. It's uh, I mean, there's like for when I play these days, I very rarely I I do sometimes use maps, but I use them a lot less than I used to. Because I used to be a big stickler for like the dungeon map and making sure that it went as it was intended. But these days I do a lot like sometimes rather than a dungeon map, I'll just put an image up of like the environment they're in, and use that, and to kind of so they get the image, they get the feeling. Oh, you're in a sewer. This is what a sewer looks like. But it's not like a corridor by corridor dungeon map, and I get what you're saying in that sense.
Right, like even when we do Peanut Gallery, we've been discussing back and forth because we can't always make it to cons. Like not every
Hmm.
one of us can hit the con at a certain time, and we'd love to. We were lucky that this last weekend at ECC, we actually got to go and film at Wizards with me DMing inside their freaking sweet room
Yeah.
with all the Storm King Thunder stuff in there, and that was awesome. Something I would never even have put on a bucket list. It's kind of awesome. I didn't expect to do it, but we know that we're not going to be able to hit every con at the same time. So when we're talking about how are we going to continue to do this show every Monday, we're looking at ways that we can do it. We're like, oh, Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds or whatnot, and D&D is partnered. So there's stuff that we could get pulled
Hmm.
in. They'll even put they even said that they would put Eberron content in there for me specifically that nobody else could get a hold of, so that I
Oh, that's
could set those
mean.
things up.
That's mean.
Well, you don't need it, do you? So
I.
you told me you don't want to run my you don't want to run my setting, so the that kind of stuff we talked about doing, but then when it comes down to it, like it's really hard to just replace the tactile feel of
Yeah.
minis and dungeon tiles and Dwarven Forge if you use that. And so we have this awesome setup of technology that we can kind of make it a little bit different. And if I can put two cameras on the minis instead of having to shoot them at different people, great. That's going to be sweet looking because I've already got my characters, my players that are going to be across the bottom of the screen. Just like you do, like we're going to put a lot of effort into what that overlay looks like. We're not just
Hmm.
going to like slap it up like it's Roll20 or Skype without some extra bells and whistles.
Yeah, that was actually the one thing that kind of was I learned when I was streaming is I tried to stream just with like casting the Roll20 window with an overlay over it, and it was very inflexible with the video and how everything was structured. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I definitely I don't know. My prep has definitely gotten very very different. Like the way I used Roll20 has morphed a lot. And I would love to get back to using minis and Dwarven Forge. Thank God I don't do like table play anymore because I would be broke as hell buying all that stuff.
Dwarven Forge is based out of Brooklyn, man. Hop on a bus.
Yeah, I'd still be broke buying it all. uh, I have very little self control when it comes to that.
I feel you.
Oh man, but I got we got some questions. Let me just exclamation point fuzzy once again, guys. Get your questions in if you haven't already. Cranky old mage, he says, is Ruty going to be on the Geek and Sundry DM show? I guess the one that they just announced they were doing a DM show. Is that inside info? Can we not share that?
Um, Let me ask.
Are you wait? Are you asking whether you can talk about that, or are you asking whether you're going to be on the show?
I'm asking questions.
Gotcha. That
Let's come back to Cranky when I get something official, and then let's hit somebody else in the meantime if that's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, give me 1 second. I get these questions that have been sent to me. So, if I can find where I put them. Once again, guys, in chat, if you haven't already, just tag me or put question in, get your questions in. We will definitely try and discuss all of them. Firebringer, he says, what is one campaign or setting that you want to play or DM in, but you never have?
I think that I would have a really good time playing in Spelljammer. Does anybody remember that? What was it? Pirate of Dark Skies, I think it was. What was it called? It was a cartoon show that I think had 1 or 2 seasons back in like the early 90s. And so when I see Spelljammer, and again, this is just naivety, I end up thinking that that's probably pretty cool. I believe that I would enjoy running some Shadowrun, get some like Matrix style stuff going on in that, and have some fun there. And then I've always been really interested in like the stuff that White Wolf does. So like the werewolf games, or the Vampire the Masquerade I think they have now, which would be pretty sweet. But I would be interested in doing those things. So I'm sure that there's going to be opportunities down the line for us to sort of expand. But I will say real fast, and this is less of a plug and just more of something that I got excited about while we were at Winter Fantasy. There's two things that I did get to play. One was Shadow of the Demon Lord, which was Rob Schwab's game. Which is, he has got a mind like nobody else's, and that's on so many different levels. But such a sweet guy all the time. And then Rodney Thompson has this game that just got funded on Kickstarter called Dusk City Outlaws.
Yeah, a lot of people have been playing that recently.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's a good thing to be able to slide in if somebody from your group can't make it that day or something along those lines. You can do it in like an hour or 2 hour kind of block. And then I'm interested to see how I can mold it into a campaign setting versus necessarily just a one-off thing. I know that wasn't how he intended it, and there's not really like inventory and things like that. But I really like the idea of Ocean's 11. It was one of my favorite movies, both the original and the remake with Clooney and company. So those sort of things, that heist stuff is stuff that, I'm excited that Eberron has a piece of that. But Eberron and Faerun give me a lot to play with, and I have so much reading to do right now for Forgotten Realms and for Eberron. That like we have a new player that's going to be coming in and joining us soon, and I don't have near enough time to prep the things I need to just for her, sort of thing, to give her a more specialized thing. So yes, Pirates of Darkwater, good job, Arrow. But yeah, that kind of a thing. So what's up? What do we got next?
Speaking of that, by the way, if you've never played, and only because you mentioned Dust City Outlaws, you might really like this. My friend John Harper has an awesome game called Blades in the Dark, which has a really, really cool setting called Duskfall, which I've never had a chance to play, but all of my friends play it, and I like sort of, I guess the best way to describe it would be like Dishonored. It's kind of like high steam, like slightly modern, like Victorian steampunk kind of dark noir stuff. It's really, really cool. And then the other thing that I was gonna say, which just slipped my mind, and I'm trying to get it back, but I can't. It's gone. Oh well. There was another setting that I was gonna mention, but it probably wasn't as cool as Blades in the Dark. That's that. Right here. So I got a question on Reddit before from Cobalt Collapse. He says, in a game, what is a good amount of time for a party to adventure? It seems like every adventure I've come across has the players going to level 20 in less than a month of in-game time.
What? How?
Yeah, that's a bit quick.
Certainly, like if that's what's going on, I don't know. I think it really has to do with how much agency or how much emphasis you want to put on the uh, on the reality of the world. So like for my players, when you guys are watching, especially this newer season after I've broken them in a little bit, Eberron is massive. Even cut to half size, it's still massive. So we're talking about months to travel across one nation, and many more months to travel across the world. But our people are in somewhere into their I'm gonna go with they've been playing for 9 or 10 months in game, and they're only level 5. They're about to get to the next threshold of that. But
how many sessions is that for you guys?
Right now, I think they started at 3 because we had sessions before that. So
Okay.
if I were to say ballpark of the entirety of it, the stream content that you guys will get to see is somewhere around 15 or 16 episodes. But in all, we've probably played 20 to 25 sessions, because some of those sessions aren't huge exp earning sessions.
Yeah.
That sometimes they'll each only be getting 100 or 200 experience for any given item. Or any given day, and it's just not something that we're. Why rush? The point of D&D is the journey, not the ending. It's not a game you win; it's a game that you enjoy. So as long as you're still enjoying those characters, you're still having fun with the dynamics of the group, then great. If you need to, if they're power gamers and that's all they want to do is level so that they can get new stuff, that's fine. But you're probably not role playing as much as could be enjoyed.
The
It's all about your group.
the when it comes to pace, I find that I'm probably one of the slowest DMs out there, mostly because I as you're talking about, you apparently you actually award your players experience. I don't do experience at my table because I think it limits the amount of time I have to tell a story. I don't like being rushed like that. I will spend as much time as I need to develop a character or a setting or a plot line. Just because I dread rushing things and them having not having the impact that they deserve.
Absolutely. You got to learn how to pace things for the appropriate emphasis that give your characters the excitement that you're trying to deliver. When I say we give experience, I typically don't even give it to them at the end of the session. I give it to them as we move into the next thing. Sometimes we go 3 or 4 sessions before I'll even tell them what they got for a thing. But I also want them to have accountability for their characters and for how they level and stuff like that. I have enough to do in my life that I don't need to be holding somebody's hand through the leveling process. And players especially for LA, there are a lot of people who have very little time on their hands because of production schedules, because of obligations, because of Oscar parties that come up, things that we sort of have to go to for our careers. But then when you look at, can somebody make Sunday? Well, maybe that Sunday was their recuperation day and they just don't feel like they can get out of bed. But, I can't let, Zork get to be higher level than me. I have to go. I'll be out leveled. That sort of a thing seems to be a good incentive for that. But I like to do a mixture of both. I give people story award experience, but I also give them experience in game. And those story award experience things are going to be what pushes you through to the next big milestone. But as far as, giving somebody a better incentive other than, you missed that story that day, I want you to be there for the story. So yeah, I'll take my time to develop it, but my people have to drive, even going 5 blocks in LA is a half an hour on the freeway. So you really got to motivate people in a specific way that works for the group.
Yeah. People, because a couple people who have been watching this channel for a long time know that every so often on, when we bring up time scale on Fuzzy Dice, I always tell them how my Friday group's doing. We are at session 72,
Wow.
as of last week, and they are still level 8.
Yeah, there you go.
So they desperately want to be level 9, but they have not earned it yet.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time making sure that they feel like their impact matters in the world. But also when it comes to Eberron, there's nobody that has a 13, like most of the NPCs in the world are less than level 13.
Yeah.
So they need to not only take time to appreciate what that means themselves, but also what's going to be available for them out in the world. What kind of things can they get to? So
Yeah, I have a player. He plays a barbarian, and his thing is he wants power, he wants recognition, that kind of thing. It's an urban campaign, so it's not like he's not like a tribal barbarian. He's just a big beefy like bruiser type dude.
Right.
But they're really powerful at this point, and they got trapped on this quarantine part of city, so he decided to open up a fighting ring, like so he can have people come in and basically he can show off how strong he is. And the funny thing about it is like he wants people to come in and fight him, and I'm like, these dudes are like level 2 at most. Like no one here can challenge you. Like and so it's yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. It's like they kind of have like they're at the point where their names aren't really known, but essentially they have the strength to change the face of the city if they really, really wanted to. And that's kind of a level that players get to, and it's really weird with an urban campaign when they're not out fighting dragons and climbing the summits of like gods' towers. They're just they're still trying to save this one city.
Yeah, I would say that that's absolutely it's something that you have to take into account, and that's also a place where Adventure League is really good about making sure that the area that you're in and whatnot, the threats are appropriate. I see that John has asked something about being an actor.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, yes, I've acted. I was in, oh God, Argo, Baby Daddy. I do a lot of voiceover work. I just did an Aaron Taylor Johnson and John Cena movie with some voiceover. I've been in commercials. I've done quite a bit of work, enough that I get floated some residuals from time to time that are nice and fluffy. But that a lot of writing options, some things, and I mean, in LA, you're basically just that person that has to continuously produce content. And when D&D actually started to become a viable option for things like, why wouldn't I want to go play D&D for ever? So yeah, I mean, if there was somebody said imdb.com, like that's the one, that's a good spot to go to check out my stuff when you're done working. But yeah, I get to act quite a bit and do a lot of stuff on the stage when I have the opportunity. This channel has taken up the majority of my time between that and conventions and working with wizards on things like that's what I'm busy with now.
He wanted to ask, are there any major differences between sort of traditional stage acting and what you do as a dungeon master, like creating NPCs or stuff? Like, obviously there are skills that translate, but do you find it harder? Do you find it easier to kind of do your own thing?
I think that probably a major thing there is there's probably a little less pressure, but like you said, and we're artists and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do things in a very appropriate way or to deliver our best performance whenever we're doing, whether it's an actual piece that we're drawing or a piece that we're writing, or music, anything like that. Like we can't help but be as aggressive as possible when it comes to making it work. And I put a lot of effort into the characters that I voice for our game, because I think that helps make it more immersive. So, and that's kind of what you're looking at if you're trying to watch a movie. You don't want to hear, like for me, most of Brad Pitt's awesome stuff was earlier in his career when he had to try really hard, right?
Yeah.
Now it doesn't matter what he does. His name is more important, really, than what his performance comes across. Sometimes he's still fantastic, but when was the last time you heard him do like a challenging accent and maintain it for an entire thing? And then the only other thing that I would say about that is, and different from film to theater, is that on film it's almost a little bit more disconnected. It's kind of like playing D&D on Roll20 in a sense where you're okay, where am I? All right, now I can go into this thing and I can do this other thing. Whereas on stage acting, you're basically running through things as they're coming up. And so this medium is almost more like improv, where if you're going to do a thing, you're going to do the thing, you're going to hold it for as long as you can. You're going to switch gears if you need to. But you'll see when we're playing that sometimes we'll be in the middle of something and I'll be like just doing this fun voice, playing this thing, and they'll ask me something, I'll have to change to a different NPC on the fly.
Oh, yeah.
And going to change back is nearly impossible.
I I forget what I said this a couple days ago. I think I said this in the last episode actually. Is for some reason players love making NPCs talk to each other, which for the DM is essentially just you changing back and forth between accents.
Yeah, I have a guy, Lucky, who really likes to ask me everybody's name. Anytime he has a conversation with somebody, it's always, like, what's your name? Where are you from? You little okay.
Yeah.
So
now you gotta give him a name. Yeah.
Right. And I make sure that that we do the same thing on in Adventures League. Only most of that stuff's provided for you. It's already there.
Yeah.
So now, before I go into something, especially if I see that look happen in his eye,
just look down at your notes
before he even gets a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if necessary, I'll put him in an initiative order where he's in the very, very back. Like, I just don't. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't use initiative very much anymore anyway. But it's very important to me that they get to feel immersed, but they also get to do their little jabs at me when they want to, because we're all players.
I think it's funny whenever you have, like, as a DM, trust me, I know the desire to, it's like, okay, no, it's just he's just the guy who sells fruit. He doesn't need a name. He doesn't need a backstory. He's just the guy that you're gonna get directions to the town hall from. Like,
yeah, exactly. When we do in writing film and television, right? You're writing a movie. You only name characters that are going to be recurring and important to the plot.
Yeah.
If you name everybody, then people in casting are like, great, I have to cast this person. Great, I have to cast this person. Which is almost the same thing to me too.
Yeah.
Where if I'm in the middle of this, and the thing is this guy's a writer, so he knows that that's how I'm going to prep.
Mm-hmm.
So he's literally doing it just because we're friends and he wants to, like, see if he can get me to stumble while we're playing.
Yeah. No, there's that's why I think some of my favorite DMs kind of come up with the tips is like just keep a list of names, because someone will always say, Fred Fruit Seller, what's your last name?
Exactly.
Who's your mother? Tell me something.
Who's your mother? Wouldn't you like to
know? All right, so oh yeah. While I'm getting the message, you were it's really interesting what you were saying about acting specifically, because I will, like, 90% of the time when I have to do a new NPC, I will have forgotten to, like, figure out an accent for them, and it will just kind of default to one of the stock ones I have. When I actually take time to figure out an accent, I think I come up with some some memorable characters. Like, I have one NPC who's just basically talks like Dave Mustaine. My wizard character. Those are actual accents. But when I actually have to come up with something on the fly, it just sort of defaults to one of the very, very simple go-to kind of personalities, because I'm not very good at acting.
Well, it's all whatever you have in your toolbox. So, like, the more that you expand on it, like, I don't know, I'm weird that when I am reading books, even if I'm just reading one of the manuals for D&D, I will read anything that is written in a specific voice just to do it, just to flex my vocal cords. And it's sometimes, if I have time, I'll go through the traditional warm-up steps that I would for voiceover, like if I were going into a studio to do it. Most of the time I don't have time for that, and I'm too sleep-deprived to remember. But for the most part, like, I practice constantly because you sort of need to. And that's what makes me so happy to do it for my players and to give them an opportunity to see how they will kind of... how they'll run with that, because I want them to be able to feel immersed too and not just play themselves in a thing. It's not a video game for a reason.
Do you have like a character or a voice? Oh, just lost video. Are we good?
Oh, did you?
Yeah. There we go. We're good now.
Okay.
Skype being
You were
Skype,
saying?
I assume. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have like a go-to personality or voice that is just like your favorite? Like, you just revel anytime you get a chance to do that.
I really like. There's this one character who was I'm not gonna say a red herring, but like he's an important NPC, but he didn't do again, we go back to alignment. He did a thing, but it wasn't in the feeling that people thought he was doing the thing in. Specifically. And I think this probably goes back to that one player that I have trying to screw with me, because that's all I'm literally trying to give you David Fincher moments during this thing, just maybe not that disgusting from time. So when I'm like, hey, like when we play with Neri, it's usually, let's see if I've got it in me. Neri speaks a lot like um, uh, Winston. So if you hear Neri ask about bananas, there's a reason. Um, and that's Crispin that does that one
Yeah.
usually, and but I just love it. Especially because when you're thinking about somebody who's going to be a big bad, you're not thinking about somebody who sounds so jolly. He's really optimistic for being a guy that lives with a bunch of skeletons and up north in Karnath. So that one, and then I really like using the same type of voice that Travis uses for Grog.
Yeah.
That one's pretty solid. It's pretty easy to get into sometimes too, So it's like you just take whatever you can, whatever in the moment kind of fits that character. Sometimes if it's a skinny little character that's got no meat on him, then he needs, you need to do something that's different than what people are going to expect. But then again, if you don't have a representation for him physically, maybe you do want to give him the same thing so people don't get the wrong idea about him. I played Muds for a really, really long time. So after a while, you kind of just develop this vision of what this person's supposed to be. And then you get, like, when you actually read their description or when they do something that throws you off, you're like, wait a minute, what was that? Oh, man, I've been so wrong for so long.
My, I think it was when I was a kid, this was, like, the early 2000s, I was obsessed with Illidan from Warcraft.
Me too.
To the point where, like, they had all those really, really cool, like, cinematics in the games and stuff, and I was just sitting there in my room or in the shower or something, like, trying to figure out, like, how to sound cool like that, because, of course, I'm not Liam O'Brien, but I think subconscious now, all of my villains are Illidan at this point. Like, they all talk like this, and that's just because it's very evil and it's very easy. And that's just a thing that I can't get away from.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you gotta, like, but at least your players know who's the guy.
Yeah.
I like to make it really tough for them to know who they need to be. I want them to pay attention. Like, they got into this thing where they were like, well, what is this thing we're supposed to do now? I was like, did you take any notes? Nope. Well, I guess that story just went away.
Every
why
time.
don't you tell us? You know what? Give me a history check. Oh, you failed? Well, I guess that's not, like, don't worry. You'll see it pop up later. It just won't be as advantageous for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Illidan is great. Whenever you've got an opportunity to tell somebody that they're a terrible noob or something.
It's always, they always, it's always weird for them when it has the same voice, but the villain is a female. What's up with that? No one really knows. It's just... all the villains.
I get up there and do the female voices as well.
Which is
tough because I have a very deep voice just in general. But every now and then you could get up and say, "Hi, I'm Suzanne Summers." I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's I love talking about voice acting mostly because I'm not a voice actor, but people ask all the time, especially when it comes to DMing, and it's like I love telling people, like, don't be afraid to look like an idiot and just commit to it. Like it will make the scene so much better. Just don't. The important part is just don't be like in your head, be like, this sounds dumb, I'm gonna stop this. It's like if you're gonna do it, you gotta commit to it.
Exactly, and that's kind of like the best thing you can do as far as being ready for acting versus anything else. Voice acting, it's all the same, and really you got to do that as a DM anyway, because you're like, well, this story could be ridiculous, but we're gonna go for it, and I'm not gonna pull back on it.
Yeah.
I like what Fire just asked here with the fan of a serious tone or fun and silly. I think that a balance is important, but it's just like, I would say that my writing style typically isn't a comedy, but I'm a fan of, I think that the most humorous scenarios come out of the most tense things. So I'm going to give a lot of leeway in certain situations if I know something funny is about to happen. But being able to keep yourself serious and straight about it, like, that's what the straight man is for in a thing. So, you'll see when you're watching, you'll see a lot of times when my players say something ridiculous and I'm in this, like, I'm in full character, like, off the thing, and I'll just be like, you son of a...
Yeah, no, it's always...
And then sometimes they'll joke, and I'll just be like, was that funny to you?
Yeah.
What do you say?
it's always weird. Like I cover my mouth when I DM a lot, because especially when I'm trying to have like a serious scene with someone, and in the background like someone just cracks a joke, and I'm like, don't laugh, just don't let them see you laughing, because it'll kill the mood. And, like, I gotta try really hard, especially because and here's the thing is when I started streaming, I started playing with a couple different people on a couple different channels, and what I learned very quickly was that, especially when it comes to live streaming, humor is I think it's an easy place for people to go to for entertainment, especially when you're improving a lot in your games. Humor is particularly easy to, as just it's just really quick, and it doesn't require a lot of investment, and so it's where a lot of DMs and players will go to naturally. And I was playing a lot of these games that were just off the wall, silly and humorous, and they were driven by jokes. And it's not that that wasn't fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. It's just like I had this itch for dramatic stuff that wasn't being scratched. And that's why I had to be like, okay, I'm going to do this horror campaign. I'm going to cast people that know this is the atmosphere that we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to do.
Right. I prefer people to have a serious character arc in mind for who they're doing and what they're doing. And I'm not a fan of the podcast fill every moment with words type of like, oh, there's a silent moment here, I'm going to make a joke. There's one moment in our second episode where I'm in the middle of this really like intense emotional thing that I'm even getting, misty-eyed about while I'm narrating it. And Satine is straight out crying, and we're in the guys are the two orc family members are literally in a conversation with each other, and one of my players just cracks a joke in the middle of it, and I just look at him and I'm like, why would you ruin that for everybody else? Think about somebody, beside yourself, but at the same time, like, it's not just my game. He has to get what he wants out of it too. So if he's got, he wants to say something like that, or he wants to try and make a joke to deflect how he feels about the situation, that's a viable thing. I wish that he had done it a little bit more in character.
Yeah.
Because then I could have played with that with the other characters, with the NPCs. But outside of that, I mean, we're all players in the game, and we all have to appreciate what everybody wants to get out of it.
Yeah, and that's a good example, because when I'm doing this horror campaign, like, we all know that it's serious, and we know there's gonna be dramatic stuff, and there's gonna be moments that are just like those moments where you say something and someone kind of takes something in, and there's just kind of that silence at the table. Those kind of moments where it's very easy to just throw in like a quip or a joke or something like that to kind of break the atmosphere. But it's happened before, and I tell this to the players behind the scenes every so often. I'm like, if I'm doing a monologue or something, players have a tendency of, when you're doing a monologue, just because you take a breath, they're like, okay, this is my moment to throw a thing in there, and it's like it's not particularly funny, and it's not particularly poignant. It's just like a oh, you don't say, a thing like that, and it's like, all right, just chill. Like, I got, let me get through this. But I try not to. I don't do those on stream or anything. Like, I talk about that behind the scenes. We kind of say, like, if that's what you want, if you feel like you need those moments, that's fine. But it's like, but there are some moments where it's better for everyone at the table if you just kind of let the drama play out.
Right. And there'll be somebody said, out of levity comes out of the tense situations.
Yeah.
It's much better to have that joke at the end of the thing when the sun sets going down and you're riding back out. You'd be like, oh, like, that one kind of reminded me of your mom. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
As you're riding out, like, that's a good button to put on something. You don't want to put a button in the middle of the intense moment, because then you have just destroyed whatever fear or whatever intensity that the DM has literally spent the entire session building for you and building for the other players at the table. So you're kind of you're doing them a disservice. So I would love to continue, hanging out. Maybe we'll come back on another time.
Oh, yeah.
So Tina and I can come on together. But I have to get back to writing. I have some deadlines that.
It's absolutely. I was actually gonna say, when we finish that question, we're coming past 10 o'clock, and I know we have some other. Obviously, we don't want to keep Ruty around too long, and you guys all have things to do. But before we get we're gonna start wrapping things up and get out of here. But before we do, let me just go ahead and hit this up and make sure people know we're gonna be giving away something cool. So let me find my thing here. I can't find it. Oh well. So before we bounce out of here, I want to say a big thank you to Ruty for hanging out with me. While I'm doing this, do you want to go quick hooks and plugs? Tell everyone, who you are, where they can find you on the internet, and kind of what kind of stuff you get up to. We'll drop the links in chat and all that. Good.
Did we get a chance to play we didn't play the intro that I sang?
I can absolutely do that if you want to.
We should, but let's roll that for at the end there. So
yeah, sure.
My episode, or I guess what we do is I'm Ruty Rutenberg, and my Twitter and Facebook and everything, whatever you can find, is going to be Ruty Woot. And let's see, we have Maze Arcana. We stream Sundays from noon until 3 or 4. It's Ruty Woot with a T, R-U-T-Y.
Oh, crap.
Yeah.
I'm horrible.
But it's all good. So you got it right on the banner, so that's what's important, right? So we stream on Sundays from noon until 3 or 4. Sometimes it goes a little bit later, depending on how the games run. Everybody knows what D&D is like. We've got a new stream coming up on Monday and a whole new lineup that's coming out for April. Plus, we have some really awesome synergies that I'm under NDA for the summer. But you'll see me with you at Gen Con more than likely, and Origins.
Absolutely.
If anybody's going there. We'll also be at WonderCon and GaryCon, where we'll be running some content that I've written. We have, like I said, Wizards guys coming in for the Monday show for Peanut Gallery. That's up right now on Twitch, as well as we're releasing the episodes little block by block. That's kind of something that we do to make it more palatable for people who can't have 4 hours to a stream. We do a little quick 45-minute or an hour release of something, and then over time, so you don't feel like you have to sit there and do them all the whole time at once. And we've got just the channel building out, just like you've been doing over there. And I can't think of it. You'll see us around Geek and Sundry from time to time. You'll see us on other streams, again, just like Exploding Dice. And that's about all I can think of. You can check out mazearcana.com or the Patreon for some of the stuff that we were allowed to create for Wizards. Or I guess not for Wizards, but for Eberron.
Absolutely. The links are all in chat, so you should definitely go show them some love and thank Ruty for being here, and definitely follow their show. Check it out whenever you can. Before we bounce out of here, we're going to run a quick giveaway, so I'm going to start that right now. All you have to do is type !YRM, that's !worm in the chat, and you have a chance to win this awesome Black Poisonwood dice case. And I'll also, because I'm a nice guy, I will send you a set of dice to go with it, because I just have way too many of these. So go ahead and get your entries in. Just type !worm to join. But as always, last couple things. Remember, there is no Writhing Moon or Jade Regent next week because this weekend because of PAX. And obviously the monthly giveaway is going on. I had one other thing, but I think we talked about it earlier in the show. So what I will tell you guys is that don't once the giveaway is away, don't go too far, because we're going to be hosting one of our awesome friends and passing on the D&D love. Giveaways are going in, so why don't we play that video while that's going on? Let me put that on screen.
This will be our intro.
Let me window capture. I think window capture.
You're using OBS?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Might be pulling in media.
Oh yeah, it might be. Hold on. Media source? Oh yeah, I have no idea. That reminds me, I have no idea where this is actually saved to. That's fine. I'll just window capture it. So what's gonna go? Let me create a new scene and we'll do all that. But let me check the giveaway, make sure that's going on. And as always, we are gonna get out of here. I'm gonna let Rudy go. You guys, I'm just gonna stick around with you guys for a little bit. But as always, thank him for hanging out. Thank you, Rudy. I hope you had a good time. I know I certainly did. You guys have been hanging out here on the Fuzzy Dice DM show. We will see you next week. But as always, don't let Dice Thulu get his tentacles on you, because he gets very handsy when he does. We'll see you next time, guys. I'll be around for the giveaway, but you guys take care.
Yeah, have a good time. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And, we'll look forward to seeing you at the cons.
Absolutely.
And anybody else who's out there wants to come.
All right. We'll see you around, guys. Take care. Peace.
Take it easy.
Ooh, transition. All right, guys. I am still here. I know he had to bounce, and that is really, really, unfortunate. But we're gonna get this giveaway done, and I'm gonna play this video here. I'm gonna add a scene. Okay, play the media. Play the media source. Play the window capture. The window capture is gonna be from VLC. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. Oh, it's in downloads, that's why. It's in downloads. It's, where is it? I don't know, guys. Guys, I don't know. Oh, here it is. There we go. Is it going? There it is. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and announce this winner. Who is going to be the winner of the giveaway? Stop the entries, pick a winner. You did it. I did it. And it looks like our winner for our contest. You guys can let me hear it. The winner for the contest is... I'm waiting for this video to be over. Cool vid, I know. I'm gonna see who did their video first. Awesome. And so, as we end that, the winner of our dice box is... Hold on, let me announce it in chat. It is Winter Phoenix. Congratulations. Thank you for entering. Thank you for being here. Congratulations, you have won a brand new Wormwood Gaming dice box. It's yours. It belongs to you. You did it. You did it, Reddit. Put the music back on. So congratulations on that. All you have to do is get in touch with me on either Twitch or Twitter with an address, all that good information. I will get that mailed out to you. I'm actually going to I'm going to the post office tomorrow, so you will get it mailed right away. But congratulations on winning that. I am going to go host some people. We're going to go hang out with some other people. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you guys had a good time. I know I certainly did. Big thanks to Rudy for hanging out and being on the show. Obviously, we will be back. There is credits at the end of the video. I know. It's I didn't realize it was playing after that. It's true. Well then, here. Hold on, wait. Credits. Hold on. I think it's only gonna play when I transition it. I don't know, man. I can't play the whole new thing again. It's true. Well, the credits say Ruty Woot and Satine Phoenix a lot. I know. Well, thank you for hanging out with us. I know this is not usually how I end the stream, but it is a lot. I had a lot of fun. I think we're gonna go host Toss Machina because I want to go check that out. So I'm gonna go do that. But you guys should definitely go check out Maze Arcana and all that good stuff. I will see you next time, guys. I gotta go get packed for PAX, but thank you for hanging out. We're gonna go host. I'll see you next time, guys. We should talk PAX, baby. Yeah, we should. Are you on the Discord? Get on the Discord. That's where all the stuff is. Discord ! All right, let me go find Geek and Sundry, and we'll go host them. ED Raid, yes, ED Raid on Geek and Sundry. That is how we do it. So I'm gonna go host them, and I'll see you guys later. But as always, Dice Thulu and Tentacles. Don't let something. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for hanging out. Peace.